6 a.m., 2 patrol cars outside, my wife in handcuffs, Brenda, smug as ever, standing on her porch like she'd just won the lottery. Then Elena flashed her badge, and everything unraveled. Picture this. I'm in my Phoenix driveway, still in Nasi. Pajamas, staring as our HOA president tries to stage what she clearly believes is the arrest of the year. The desert morning smells like creosote and karma, and the crisp clink of handcuffs echoes down our perfectly landscaped street. Brenda had gone all in, called 911 to report federal impersonation, cited ongoing suspicious activity, and even invited Channel 12 News to witness the spectacle. Humiliation wasn't enough. She wanted headlines. "Ma'am, you're under arrest for impersonating a federal officer," the cop says, right on cue, like he was reading off Brenda's script. Elena doesn't flinch. Calmly, she says, "Officer, may I present my credentials? From the Department of Justice?" Out comes the badge. And just like that, Brenda's smirk vanishes faster than rain on hot asphalt. The self-proclaimed guardian of law and order was about to find out what a real federal crime actually looks like. So, what would you do if your neighbor tried to get you arrested for simply doing your job? Drop a comment and tell me where you're watching from, because trust me, this story's just getting started. Let me rewind. My name's Marcus. I'm 45, Navy vet, now a telecommunications contractor. Thought I'd found peace in suburban paradise. Big mistake. My wife Elena, she's the type of woman who makes white-collar criminals lose sleep. 15 years in DOJ's Financial Crimes Division. She's nailed money launderers, embezzlers, the kind of suits who think a $10,000 lawyer can erase felony charges. But in Willowbrook Estates, she was just the unemployed lady who sleeps till noon. Willowbrook is one of those rigidly perfect communities outside Phoenix where uniformity isn't just encouraged, it's enforced. Lawns must be exactly 2 inches high. Mailboxes regulation beige. Even flags have to be angled just right per CC&Rs. The air here always smells like freshly cut Bermuda grass and quiet desperation. And then there's Brenda Hutchinson, HOA president, retired bank manager, petty tyrant with a clipboard. At 58, she'd redirected all her micromanaging instincts into policing this gated community like it was Fort Knox. Every day at 7 a.m., she'd leave her beige lair in a blinding pink tracksuit, patrolling the streets with her clipboard like it was a badge. The gravel crunching under her orthopedic sneakers became Willowbrook's unofficial morning alarm, and to Elena, it was pure torture. Brenda zeroed in on my wife immediately. See, working undercover in financial crimes doesn't exactly line up with your typical suburban routine. Elena would leave around midnight, sleep until noon, rotate through unmarked government vehicles, and sometimes come home in tactical gear. To Brenda's HOA mindset, this didn't add up. "I'm just saying," she'd whisper loudly to anyone nearby. "Normal people have normal schedules. Who sleeps all day and drives a new car every week? Makes you wonder how she's actually making money." That suspicion? It started rotting through the neighborhood like bad citrus, and it only got worse when Elena started a new assignment. Another major crypto fraud case. More late nights, more gadgets, more hushed, jargon-laced calls in that clipped federal agent tone. To Elena, it was routine. To Brenda, it was confirmation of every suburban anxiety she'd ever whispered over coffee. The tipping point came one crisp October morning. Elena was in our driveway doing actual surveillance, unmarked car, tactical vest under her coat, discreet earpiece conducting real, authorized federal work. Brenda spotted her and decided apparently that Elena was playing FBI Barbie. 20 minutes later, she was banging on my front door like she was DEA. "This ends today, Marcus." Brenda, red-faced in a pastel tracksuit, looked like a furious flamingo. "I don't know what delusion your wife is living out, but impersonating a federal officer is a crime." She shoved a violation notice at me like it was a subpoena. "You've got 24 hours to make her stop, or I'm calling the actual cops." I tried to reason. "Brenda, I think you're misinterpreting." "Nope," she barked. "I've got proof. The outfit, the fake radio, the shady cars. She's ruining our property values. The notice claimed, violation, resident engaging in police impersonation, causing safety concerns and potential liability, $500 fine per day until resolved. That night, Elena read it and burst out laughing. The kind of laugh that means something bad is about to happen to someone else. 15 years busting white-collar crime, she grinned, and I get a ticket for being me. Neither of us knew Brenda's vendetta was about to blow open crimes bigger than Elena's entire caseload. Brenda went full warpath. Within 48 hours of issuing her petty citation, she called an emergency HOA meeting and retained a lawyer, $300 an hour no less. The formal letter arrived Thursday, thick as a mini novel and reeking of overpriced law firm. My Navy instincts kicked in. When legal paper flies, know the damn rules. The header screamed, formal HOA hearing, criminal impersonation allegations. 3 pages of legal scare tactics from some guy named Mitchell Hawthorne, threatening cease and desist orders and a property lien if Elena didn't stop cosplaying as law enforcement. Absurd, even for HOA standards. But here's the thing about spending 8 years under military regs. You read everything. And I did, coffee in hand, flipping through the CCNRs like they were combat manuals. The kill shot came on page 47, section ADI 4.3. HOA presidents can't spend more than $250 in legal fees without a board vote. Brenda had sailed right past that limit. Solo. Even better, section 7.1. Personal liability for unauthorized expenses. My old chief always said, if they don't know their rules, those rules are your weapons. He wasn't wrong. I filed a counter-complaint that same day, demanding Brenda personally refund the HOA for her solo legal tantrum. Meanwhile, our neighborhood Facebook page imploded. Brenda posted zoomed-in photos of Elena in tactical gear, captioned, public safety threat, and when does fantasy go too far? The comments were a war zone. Team Brenda wailed about shady behavior and dropping home values. Team Elena clapped back. She kept to herself and had the nicest lawn on the street. Brenda's grand finale, hosting a community safety night that Sunday. The flyers promised, we heard they were holding a neighborhood meeting to talk about preserving our community values. Code words that always made me uneasy. Elena and I went anyway. Figured we might as well watch the show live. The community center smelled like burnt coffee and overused disinfectant. Fluorescent lights flickered overhead like angry wasps. About 30 people showed up. Tension so heavy it felt like breathing soup. Brenda had a PowerPoint ready, complete, with slides titled Warning Signs in Our Neighborhood and Protecting Your Investment. She was mid-rant, detailing Elena's suspicious behavior, when Elena's phone rang. It was her federal supervisor with an update. Yes, sir, Elena replied, stepping out. Surveillance resumes at 0600. Asset location confirmed. Cool, professional. Exactly what you'd expect from someone in her line of work. But Brenda heard every word and decided Elena was taking her role-playing too far. Did everyone hear that? She said, nearly shaking from smug excitement. Military time, surveillance, it's like a script from some spy movie. This is exactly the kind of erratic behavior I'm talking about. Some neighbors nodded, others looked uneasy, but nobody stated the obvious. Elena sounded like a federal agent because she is one. Elena came back to the room and met 30 confused stares. Is everything okay? She asked, confused by the sudden cold front. Oh, just wonderful, Brenda said with a blade-sharp grin. I was just reminding everyone how seriously the FBI takes impersonation. Her words hung like a chemical cloud. Elena gave me a look that said, what nightmare did I just walk into? She turned to Brenda and said, calm as ever. You know what? You should call the FBI. I think they'd be very interested. Brenda's smile stretched. Oh, don't worry, I will. That night, under a sky full of stars, Elena just shook her head. 15 years in financial crimes and this lady thinks I'm cosplaying? I gave her hand a squeeze. Brenda had no idea what was coming. And she truly didn't, because while she was planning to report Elena, her own little financial empire was about to explode. Monday came with the kind of heat that kept smart people inside, but Brenda wasn't about to let good judgment get in the way of drama. At exactly 8:47 a.m., because of course she logged the time, she strutted into the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office like she was on a divine mission. Her goal: file an official report accusing Elena of pretending to be a federal agent. I know this because Officer Rodriguez called me later, and I could hear him stifling laughter. "Marcus," he said, "your wife isn't secretly running some kind of scam, right? Because this woman just showed up with a binder full of accusations." That read like a TV show plot. Brenda seemed ready to launch an entire legal proceeding. She'd apparently spent the weekend assembling what she proudly called her evidence portfolio, a bulky 3-ring binder that could put a seasoned detective to shame. It had everything: photos of Elena in tactical clothing, neatly labeled activity logs, snapshots of unmarked government vehicles, printed snippets of overheard conversations, and articles outlining the criminal consequences of impersonating federal officials. Essentially, Brenda had built a legal case against someone who already worked for the government. The irony was so rich you could bottle and sell it. "She's demanding immediate arrest," Rodriguez told us, shaking his head. "Claims your wife is running unauthorized security operations and presents an immediate risk to community safety. I've seen some imaginative accusations before, but this one's going in the all-time greats folder." What Brenda clearly didn't understand was how these reports actually get handled. When someone accuses another person of pretending to be a federal officer, step one is always to check the car registration. Elena's plain-looking vehicle came back tagged as an active DOJ asset, criminal division. That raised a few eyebrows. Rodriguez turned up at our house about 2 hours later, his face a blend of confusion and curiosity, like he'd walked into a mystery novel halfway through. The afternoon sun was brutal, baking the driveway, and the air was heavy with that electric scent that signals a storm is near. Elena was outside trimming her rose bushes, still wearing tactical pants from an early morning operation. To her, comfort always beat blending in with the neighborhood. "Ma'am, I need to follow up on some allegations," Rodriguez began, trying to stay formal despite the obvious absurdity. "Mind showing me some ID?" Elena casually removed her gardening gloves, wiped her hands, and produced her official badge and identification. DOJ credentials clear as day. Rodriguez looked them over like they were some kind of ancient relic, then stepped aside to radio dispatch. The radio buzzed and crackled before confirming, "Badge 847392, active status, DOJ Criminal Division. Agent Elena Vasquez, 15 years of service." Rodriguez immediately relaxed. "Ma'am, sorry about the inconvenience. Just doing what's required." "No worries, officer." "What exactly was I supposed to have done?" Elena asked, raising an eyebrow. "Impersonating a federal agent, offering illegal security services. And this is direct from the report, engaging in suspicious surveillance activities that negatively impact neighborhood property values." That did it. Elena laughed, sharp and genuine. "Surveillance hurting property values? That's a creative one." But Rodriguez wasn't smiling anymore. "Ma'am, just so you're aware, making false claims against a federal agent violates Title 18, Section 101. That's the same law we use for lying to investigators. It can carry up to 5 years in federal prison." Elena's expression shifted from humor to focused interest. She'd handled enough prosecutions to know that was no empty threat. "False statements in federal matters are taken very seriously. I'm not pushing for charges," she said carefully. "I think she truly believes what she's saying, as wild as it sounds." "With respect, ma'am," Rodriguez said, tone firm now. "This wasn't someone confused. This was a deliberate, multi-day effort to build a completely false case. That's different. Meanwhile, Brenda was watching everything unfold from her kitchen window like she was tuning into her favorite drama. She'd probably expected sirens, arrests, maybe Elena in cuffs. What she got instead was Rodriguez returning the ID, offering a polite nod, and walking back to his vehicle without saying a word to her. Elena's hand, laugh at something she said, then drive off without cuffing anyone. The mental whiplash must have been unreal. That evening, Brenda returned, this time with backup. Harold from down the block and Mrs. Patterson from the corner, both looking like they'd rather be mowing lawns in a thunderstorm. "I saw the police were here," Brenda announced, practically buzzing. "When are they taking her in for processing?" "They're not," I said, savoring it like good wine. Brenda's face cycled through more emotions than a silent film actor on fast forward. "What do you mean they're not? I filed formal charges. I have documented evidence." "Well," I said, trying not to grin, "turns out Elena's actually a federal agent." "Wild, right?" The silence was so heavy I could hear Mrs. Patterson's hearing aid whining. Harold physically stepped back, like federal agent was contagious. "That's impossible," Brenda sputtered. "Real agents they wouldn't. You're all lying." Just then, Elena stepped out behind me, flipping open a leather case. "DOJ Criminal Division, badge number 847392. Feel free to verify." Brenda didn't back down. Her desperation just evolved. "Then you tricked them, too. Criminals fake badges all the time. I'm calling the FBI. They'll expose this charade." As her little committee shuffled away, Elena shook her head. "She's really about to call the FBI on someone who works with the FBI. This is going to be incredible," I said. And it was. Brenda didn't just call the FBI. She went DEFCON 1, filed a full-blown formal complaint through their website, complete, with a 40-page dossier that would have made a Cold War spy jealous. Screenshots, timestamps, witness statements, enough circumstantial junk to build a RICO case from duct tape. She claimed Elena was leading an impersonation ring, doing illegal surveillance, and possibly preparing for domestic terrorism. She even submitted Google Maps screenshots showing Elena's supposed infiltration patterns. By Thursday morning, the FBI's Phoenix field office had the file. By afternoon, Elena's phone rang. "Agent Vasquez, this is Special Agent Thompson. We got a colorful complaint about you. Can I ask what you're working on that might have triggered civilian attention?" Elena almost spit her coffee. "Sir, I'm on financial surveillance for the Morrison crypto fraud case. Nothing operational, just spreadsheets and subpoenas." "Well," Thompson said, clearly holding back laughter, "according to Mrs. Hutchinson, you're either running a major criminal syndicate or you're the greatest method actor Arizona's ever seen. She included so much documentation, our fraud unit's considering adopting her as a mascot." The call lasted 20 minutes. Thompson stayed professional, but the amusement was bleeding through. By the end, he offered to call Brenda personally. "Actually, sir," Elena said, "I think I'd like to handle that myself. Mrs. Hutchinson's about to learn a few things about federal law and false reports. Meanwhile, I had my own fun project. After 8 years in the Navy, I knew how to weaponize bureaucracy. So I filed a FOIA request for Brenda's FBI complaint, just to see what exactly she'd accused my wife of. 2 weeks later, the response arrived. A true work of delusional art. Brenda had created a full-blown conspiracy from Elena's work hours, complete with theories on money laundering, shadow surveillance, and encrypted garage door codes. While staying on my friend's couch during a transfer, I found myself wrapped up in something far bigger. What started as whispers of strange behavior turned into rumors about organized crime and covert surveillance. But here's where it took a serious legal turn. Filing false reports with federal agencies isn't a prank. It's a felony, and one with consequences that don't fade. Back when I was stationed in Norfolk, our legal officer had a saying, "Never lie to federal agents. They don't forget, and they never quit." Brenda was about to learn the truth in that, Elena's boss, Deputy Assistant Director Sarah Olivia, had been quietly monitoring things. With a past as a federal prosecutor and over 15 years spent convicting high-profile financial criminals, Olivia was well aware of what this situation could become. She also understood the personal toll. "Elena," she said during their weekly call, "this woman has now filed complaints with both local police and federal agencies. At what point does this shift from annoyance to workplace interference?" "She's not stopping any ops," Elena replied. "She's just made my home life complicated." Complicated isn't the word I'd use. She's falsely accused a federal agent of serious crimes using fabricated evidence. That's a felony. This isn't neighbor drama anymore. Chen was absolutely right, and Elena knew it. But charging someone federally could backfire, turning the issue into a headline. Federal intimidation in a neighborhood dispute. "Let me try something quieter," Elena offered. "If that doesn't work, we escalate." Her plan? Use her credentials and the truth. She'd tell the HOA board exactly who she was and what Brenda was accusing her of. That chance came quickly. Brenda, encouraged by her FBI complaint, scheduled an urgent HOA meeting for Tuesday. The agenda? Community safety, exposing hidden crimes and a federal cover-up. She even contacted Channel 12 News, claiming it was a whistleblower case. The reporter, probably bored and hoping for easy footage, agreed to come. Brenda had no idea what was coming. To become the unexpected centerpiece of her own public disaster. The community center was packed within minutes. Word had swept through the neighborhood faster than free pizza at a town hall meeting. Locals filled every folding chair, many clutching, their phones ready to capture the spectacle about to unfold. Brenda stood confidently at the front, her presentation already cued. She'd titled her slideshow, "Protecting Our Neighborhood When the System Fails Us." "Tonight," she declared to the crowd and a local news camera, "I'm exposing the criminal network hiding in plain sight, right here in our streets, and the officials turning a blind eye." Elena and I sat quietly in the last row, watching this. Situation spiraled toward disaster. She had her federal badge in her bag, praying she wouldn't need it. But that hope wouldn't last much longer. As Brenda spun her dramatic conspiracy theory, I took a more grounded approach, one any experienced telecom contractor would. I followed the money. My day job involves financial systems integration, meaning I read spreadsheets like bedtime stories, and spot inconsistencies faster than you can say audit. And the HOA's monthly financial statements had been bugging me for a while. Something about them felt wrong, like a jigsaw puzzle with pieces forced into place. So I took Elena's old advice to heart. If it doesn't add up, dig until it does. Our HOA collected just under $180,000 a year in fees from 96 homes. Basic expenses included lawn care, pool upkeep, insurance, and admin tasks. It should have been straightforward. Routine numbers with logical patterns. But Brenda's financial reports? They suggested a spending spree that would make a Vegas bachelor party look frugal. The first warning sign was the consulting charges. In the last year and a half, the HOA had paid $23,000 to a company named Desert Management Solutions for administrative consulting. The odd part? No one had ever seen these consultants, and not a single board member could explain what those services involved. Then there was Pinnacle Landscaping Services, $31,000 spent on community enhancement projects. But our neighborhood greenery looked exactly the same as when we first moved in. Actually, maybe worse. The tulips near the front gate hadn't bloomed in 2 seasons, a dead palm tree by the mailbox that no one had replaced in years. But the real bombshell was buried in the HOA's credit card records. Brenda had been using the community card for everything from suspicious purchases to outright personal expenses. Grocery runs, department store shopping, gas fill-ups, even what looked like a luxury cabin weekend in Sedona. I matched each vendor transaction with real services, or the lack thereof. The pattern was a classic embezzlement playbook. Create. Phony vendors issue fake invoices, approve payments, then bury the truth under bureaucracy and intimidation. Elena found me at 2 a.m., surrounded by spreadsheets, bank statements, and a calculator that had been working overtime. "Babe, what are you doing?" she asked. "Our neighbor's been robbing the neighborhood blind," I said, pointing to a cell in the spreadsheet that made my stomach turn. "We're looking at over $47,000 gone in the last 2 years. Could be more." Elena leaned in, her professional instincts kicking in immediately. Her background in financial crime investigations made it easy to recognize the red flags: shell corporations, fake invoices, credit misuse. It was all there. The irony was rich enough to bottle and sell. Brenda, who had been loudly accusing a DOJ agent of criminal activity, was actually running her own low-budget crime ring. It was like the town gossip getting caught bugging phones. "Can you do anything about it?" I asked. "Officially, no," Elena said. "It's a conflict of interest for me, but—" Her tone shifted as the gears turned. "HOA embezzlement falls under state jurisdiction. Title 13 of the Arizona Revised Statutes, anything over $10,000 is a felony." She was absolutely right. Brenda hadn't just crossed the line, she'd sprinted over it and started a barbecue on the other side. "There's more," I said, opening another folder. "She's hiding the missing funds by postponing basic maintenance, cutting insurance, and skipping required inspections. The community pool hasn't been chemically balanced in months, and she's been buying discount insurance that likely won't cover anything serious." Elena sank into a chair. "So while she's out accusing us of imaginary wrongdoing, she's quietly putting every homeowner at financial risk." "Exactly." Elena gave me a look I'd seen only a few times: cold, focused, and dangerous. "Well then," she said with a calm that carried weight, "let's show her what a real investigation looks like." That weekend, our dining room became an improvised command center. Coffee flowed nonstop, documents covered every inch of the table, and there was a sense of purpose that only shows up when the facts are on your side. Elena couldn't run the investigation, but she could guide it, and she did, like a field instructor for rookie agents. "Rule 1, she said, handing me coffee at dawn. "Document everything. Never assume. Follow the trail to the source." Our first recruit was Roberto Martinez, a retired CPA 4 houses down. 30 years of auditing made him an expert at turning bad math into clear evidence. "This is gorgeous," he said, eyes wide at Brenda's paper trail. "A gold mine of sloppy fraud." He agreed to build a full forensic report. Then came Sarah Kellerman, a retired paralegal who'd spent 2 decades in white-collar defense. She not only knew the legal landscape, she knew how to navigate it. "Under Arizona law, this qualifies as first-degree theft," she explained, citing the exact clause. "That's a Class 3 felony, 2 to 8 years. Even better, she knew how to start the process of removing a board member for misconduct. Our third partner was Tom Bradley, a Marine vet and retired MP. He brought strategic discipline, how to gather evidence properly, document witness statements accurately, and coordinate effectively with law enforcement. "The key is building 3 cases at once," Tom explained during our Sunday strategy meeting. "1 civil case to recover stolen funds, 1 criminal case for prosecution, and 1 internal HOA action to remove her from the board. All 3 support each other." Jennifer Walsh, our social media coordinator, completed the core team. A stay-at-home mom with a background in marketing, she knew exactly how to package information for maximum impact while staying within legal guidelines. "We need to shape the narrative," she said, as she set up a secure group chat for our operations. "Brenda's been using social media to spread paranoia and fiction. We'll counter her with documentation and truth." Elena guided us quietly, turning our group of concerned residents into something that resembled a task force. Officially, she couldn't be involved, but she could teach. She drilled us on how to handle evidence, maintain the chain of custody, and present a case to the authorities without getting it tossed. "Never jump to malice," she reminded us. Sometimes it's just incompetence, but when you see consistent irregularities over a long time, that's when you're probably looking at fraud. Roberto's financial analysis uncovered the full scheme. Brenda had set up 3 shell companies: Desert Management Solutions, Pinnacle Landscaping Services, and Willowbrook Security Consulting, all registered to local P.O. boxes under her control. None of them had real offices, staff, or operations, but together they'd siphoned more than $47,000 in HOA funds over 18 months. Sarah took the lead on the legal side. She dug into Arizona statutes governing homeowner associations. The law required a 2/3 member vote to remove a board member, but in cases where criminal activity was reasonably suspected, emergency action could be taken to suspend them pending investigation. That gave us a path forward. Tom, always methodical, started building the master timeline. Every payment, every suspicious contract, every board meeting where Brenda pushed through a vote with vague language and rushed agendas. He also made a list of potential witnesses, residents who had asked questions at meetings or who had noticed things that didn't sit right. People who might not have realized they were seeing the early signs of a scam. We weren't just angry neighbors anymore. We were a team, organized, focused, and ready to take back control of our community. Entire scene with her phone. She stayed, far enough away not to interfere, but close enough to capture Brenda hauling boxes of paper into the building, the shredder screaming in the background. "Just out for a walk," she whispered on camera. "And what's this? Community funds. Going up in smoke?" The video, time-stamped and geotagged, was uploaded to our encrypted drive within minutes. By noon, Elena had quietly tipped off a contact in the county prosecutor's office. "It's not official yet," she told us, "but they're very interested. If we can hold the line until tomorrow, this becomes their case." Sarah filed the formal emergency motion to suspend Brenda pending investigation, citing financial misconduct and destruction of records. Thanks to Roberto's research, we'd already collected and duplicated everything Brenda was trying to destroy. Tom finalized the coordinated release plan, evidence packets prepared for law enforcement, backup media for local reporters, and a carefully worded public update drafted by Jennifer. "This isn't about revenge," she said as she tweaked the headline. "It's about accountability." Tuesday evening approached like a storm front. Quiet at first, but electric with tension. Brenda had spent the day blasting social media, with claims that Elena was a fraud, the HOA was under attack, and unnamed forces were trying to silence her. But when she stepped onto the stage at the emergency meeting, cameras rolling and neighbors gathered, she was the one caught in the spotlight. And we were ready. The legality of Brenda's proposals. The tension in the room became so thick it practically had mass. Roberto, playing it cool, simply raised his hand and asked if a financial audit would be considered part of the external threats Brenda kept referencing. Her face tightened like she'd bitten into a lemon. "This isn't a joke, Roberto," she snapped. "There are bad actors trying to destabilize our community." "Like people shredding documents the day before a vote?" he countered, voice calm. Brenda sputtered, but didn't respond. That night, Jennifer uploaded her video to a private server and shared it with a local investigative journalist she knew from her previous job. Just in case Brenda tried anything worse, we needed a backup plan that didn't involve going through official HOA channels. Meanwhile, Elena contacted her DOJ supervisor and proactively disclosed the voicemail Brenda had left. "I want everything out in the open," she told us. "No surprises. If they ask questions, I have receipts. If they don't, we still win." Her supervisor was more amused than concerned. "Sounds like this lady's trying to bring a gun to a wildfire," he'd said. Tuesday came with the weight of something inevitable. Brenda had arranged a community safety presentation with news crews, local law enforcement, and HOA members in attendance. She intended to use the spotlight to publicly accuse Elena of fraud and corruption. What she didn't know was that we'd timed our counterstrike down to the minute. When Brenda began her speech, confidently announcing that she had irrefutable proof of Elena's crimes, Jennifer stepped forward from the crowd holding a tablet. "Before we continue," she said, "I think everyone should see this first." She hit play on the video of Brenda shredding documents. Why were emergency audits even necessary when the community supposedly had strong reserves? Brenda's replies became more defensive, even aggressive. "Some individuals in this neighborhood are trying to sabotage property values and stir up unrest," she claimed. "I won't stand by while outside troublemakers try to ruin everything we've built here." But the situation took a sharper turn when Elena finally received a callback from her supervisor. Deputy Assistant Director Olivia had done a thorough background check and was deeply concerned. Apparently, Brenda had submitted complaints to several federal agencies, accusing Elena of everything from espionage to illegal activities. "Elena, this woman has contacted the FBI, DEA, ATF, and Homeland Security," Olivia reported calmly, but with an edge of alarm. "She's made variations of the same unfounded accusations. She even tried to reach the Attorney General and got patched through to the Inspector General's hotline. It's no longer a neighborhood issue. It's becoming a problem of interference with a federal employee's ability to carry out her work. Not to mention the misuse of public resources for baseless reports." "I believe it's going to come to a head tomorrow evening," Elena replied evenly. "She's planning a public confrontation, and she thinks I'll be the one facing charges, but she's not ready for the direction this is about to take." "What direction?" Olivia asked. Elena then described the financial investigation her team had quietly completed. Olivia listened without interruption, then requested the full documentation. "If she's been misusing community funds while simultaneously harassing a federal officer," Olivia concluded, "then yes, this is going to be a very long week for her." The plan was in motion. Now they just had to wait for Brenda to spring her own trap. Tuesday arrived like the calm before a desert thunderstorm. Brenda was about to trigger the biggest lightning strike Willowbrook had ever seen. She had turned the community center into her own version of a courtroom. A large projection screen had been set up, along with evidence tables and intense lighting fit for a daytime drama. The smell of burnt coffee and anticipation drifted through the room as residents gathered, many clutching their phones in anticipation. The word had spread like wildfire. Tonight's HOA meeting was either going to be Brenda's finest moment or an unforgettable disaster. She had invited everyone: local Channel 12 News, the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office, delegates from 3 separate federal departments, and seemingly half the community. She even brought in a professional stenographer. She wanted an official transcript of Elena's arrest. This evening, Brenda declared to the packed room and live cameras, "Justice will finally prevail. For too long, our peaceful neighborhood has been under threat by imposters using government positions to intimidate and destabilize us. But not anymore. Thanks to my extensive research, the facts will be exposed." Operation Suburbia, Crumbling Delusions and Unintentional. Confessions. It was like watching someone reenact a bad espionage thriller with zero self-awareness. Elena and I were seated quietly in the back row with our team, letting Brenda implode under the weight of her own nonsense. Elena had her credentials tucked away, hoping things would escalate into criminal charges before she had to flash a badge. Brenda began her so-called exposé with grainy surveillance images she'd taken of Elena over the last half-year. The subject demonstrates repeated patterns consistent with covert surveillance, she declared, pointing at a slide showing Elena watering plants in tactical cargo pants. The room was silent, save for the news camera's buzz and occasional stifled giggles. Mrs. Patterson, bless her, timidly raised her hand. "Brenda, isn't that just Elena gardening?" "That's exactly what they want you to believe," Brenda hissed. "Experienced operatives excel at blending in. Then came her pièce de résistance, the alleged proof of a federal plot. Somehow she'd accessed Elena's work emails, most likely through illegal means, and now projected them for the entire room. "Note the coded terminology," she said, highlighting phrases like asset placement and target acquisition. "Clearly, this is criminal activity masked as bureaucratic language." Officer Rodriguez, visibly disturbed, finally intervened. "Ma'am, that appears to be standard federal law enforcement correspondence. Where did you get these emails?" Brenda's face went crimson. "A vigilant citizen shared them through lawful channels," she muttered, eyes darting widely. "Bring down a conspiracy theorist masquerading as a patriot." The room descended into chaos. People who had once nodded along with Brenda's ramblings were now furiously scrolling through their phones, whispering to one another, or staring at her with a mix of betrayal and disbelief. Officer Rodriguez began clearing a path toward the podium, radio in hand. Brenda's once righteous expression was gone, replaced by panic. Roberto calmly handed his report to the officer. "There are signed checks, encrypted spreadsheets, even a Venmo payment labeled consulting fee sent to a dog grooming service that doesn't exist," Mrs. Patterson gasped. Brenda tried one last Hail Mary. "This is a setup. They planted all this to silence me." "No one needed to plant anything," Elena said as she finally stepped forward, still holding her badge. "You dug your own grave when you decided to weaponize paranoia instead of facts." The reporter shoved a microphone toward Brenda. "Mrs. Hutchinson, do you have any comment about the embezzlement allegations?" Brenda blinked rapidly, looked around at the sea of shocked faces, and then bolted for the exit, only to be intercepted by Officer Rodriguez and two deputies. "Ma'am, I'm placing you under arrest for unlawful surveillance, obstruction of justice, and potential federal wiretap violations. You have the right to remain silent." Elena exhaled slowly as the cuffs clicked into place. I handed her a bottle of water, and she gave me a tired but satisfied nod. Outside, the sun had long set, but the glow of police lights and camera flashes painted the street like a crime scene from a movie. The crowd began to spill out into the parking lot, buzzing with disbelief, vindication, and the kind of gossip that would fuel neighborhood potlucks for the next decade. I turned to Elena. "Well, that was something," she grinned. "Operation Neighborhood Watch complete. Let's go get tacos." And just like that, justice had been served, with a side of salsa. The hunter had officially become the prey, and it was all being broadcast live. The community center exploded like a soda can tossed into a bonfire. Attendees who'd been half listening to Brenda's dramatic presentation suddenly surged to life, yelling over one another about missing funds and demanding accountability Brenda clearly wasn't prepared to offer. $47,000, Harold shouted above the noise. "That's why the pool's been disgusting for years and why our grass looks like a sandpit," Mrs. Patterson added, her hearing aid screeching while the room boiled. Brenda wasn't backing down. She clutched the mic like a shield, her voice thin and trembling. "This is exactly what I was warning about. They're deploying psychological warfare to derail my investigation." The Channel 12 reporter sensed gold and closed in, cameraman filming every second. "Mrs. Hutchinson, are you denying the financial fraud accusations?" "This is a setup," Brenda yelled, jabbing her finger at Elena. "She's a plant sent to destroy everything we've built." That's when Officer Rodriguez stepped up, radio at the ready. "Ma'am, I need you to relax and answer a few questions. About these accounts." Sarah stood next, her paralegal instincts activated as she addressed the crowd calmly. "Under Arizona Revised Statutes, Title 13, theft exceeding $10,000 from community funds is a Class 3 felony. The documentation indicates consistent embezzlement over 2 years." That statement cut through the noise like an axe. The crowd, once screaming, froze. This wasn't just petty drama anymore. It was criminal. Brenda's once faithful fans now physically stepped back, like betrayal was contagious. The three board members who'd enabled her stared awkwardly at their shoes as if the floor might swallow them. "I demand to see this so-called evidence," Brenda cried, but her authority was gone, reduced to a panicked tremor. Roberto calmly opened his laptop, hooking it to the projector. Instantly, the screen filled with records, bank logs, wire transfers, itemized expenses. The case built itself. Roberto pointed. "Desert Management Solutions," he said, highlighting the fake, company. "Registered to a P.O. box tied to Mrs. Hutchinson. $31,000 billed for non-existent services." The room collectively gasped. Someone in the back began recording. "Pinnacle Landscaping Services," Roberto continued. $16,000 spent on beautification work that never occurred." More gasps, more phones pointed forward. "And my personal favorite," Roberto said, clearly savoring the moment. "Community credit card charges at Target, Walmart, and a weekend getaway in Sedona." That was the breaking point. The crowd erupted. Residents shouted about every leaky pipe, every broken fixture, every ignored repair from the past 2 years. The noise was like a hornet's nest that had just been stomped. Elena stood, her DOJ badge visible, and calmly addressed the room with practiced authority. "Ma'am," she said to Brenda, "you spent half a year making false reports against a federal agent. While committing financial crimes, I specialize in investigating. The irony would be funny if it wasn't so tragic." The silence afterward was almost cinematic, broken only by shutter clicks and the steady hum of the news camera. Brenda's face morphed through disbelief, panic, and rage. "You can't prove this! It's fake! It's all a setup!" But Officer Rodriguez had heard enough. "Mrs. Hutchinson, based on tonight's evidence, I'm placing you under arrest for first-degree theft, a Class 3 felony under Arizona law." The snap of handcuffs echoed in the room, the same sound that had started this mess 6 months earlier. Only this time, they were on the right wrists. As she was escorted out, Brenda turned to the crowd. "This isn't over. One day you'll see I was right," Elena responded sweetly. "Ma'am, the truth already came out. It just wasn't the version you were hoping for." The room burst into applause. The cameras caught every moment. Then someone started chanting, "Justice, justice," and soon the entire room joined in. It was the perfect ending to Willowbrook's ugliest chapter. What followed felt like the finale of a courtroom drama, except this time the justice was real, and no one charged for popcorn. Within 2 days, Channel 12's footage exploded online. By the weekend, we were getting calls from CNN, Fox News, and morning shows, all chasing the story of the HOA chair who tried to arrest a federal agent. Vindication never smelled so sweet, mixed with desert flowers blooming in the spring air. Brenda's legal problems multiplied fast. Maricopa County charged her with embezzlement. The FBI opened a case on her false claims. The IRS found her businesses had never filed returns. Even the Postal Service stepped in. Mail fraud on those fake addresses. She pled guilty to everything, avoiding prison by paying $78,000 in restitution and fines. Our community recovered every cent after the sale of her beloved beige home to cover losses. But here's where things turned incredible. Instead of pocketing the recovered money, our new board established the Willowbrook Community Scholarship Fund. Each year, 3 $5,000 scholarships go to local students in need, transforming Brenda's theft into opportunity. The sounds of kids laughing in renovated play areas, rebuilt with embezzled funds, became the soundtrack of true justice. Roberto runs the scholarship with public accounting that leaves no room for corruption. Elena chairs the advisory committee, because nothing says honesty like DOJ oversight. Sarah ensures legal compliance. Tom oversees security, and Jennifer manages communications that actually unify us. Our story became a reform blueprint across the region. Communities from Nevada, Texas, and California now visit to learn from our Willowbrook Transparency Protocol, our homegrown system that prevents future scandals Elena's badge is now a symbol of safety instead of suspicion. Crime in our neighborhood plummeted once word got out a federal agent lived among us. The local kids call her Agent Elena. She's our unofficial safety coach, teaching us how to recognize real threats instead of imagined ones. My telecom business took off thanks to the viral video. Turns out being the guy who helped bust the corrupt HOA made me popular. I now consult across 3 states, teaching HOA boards how to prevent fraud. My top advice? Always demand quarterly audits by third parties. It's the most effective way to stop corruption before it starts. Elena now speaks at DOJ events on workplace harassment and HOA abuse cases. She jokes that she made forensic accounting cool by turning it into neighborhood justice stories. But the best part? Every October, we host Accountability Day, marking Brenda's arrest anniversary. What started as a small block party is now a full-on regional event with food trucks, music, and civic education booths. Our restored parks are filled with desert-friendly gardens funded by recovered money. Hummingbirds visit daily, like nature's way of blessing our second chance. Property values rose 30%, not from rigid rules but from genuine integrity and restored trust. Last month, a news outlet filmed Elena sharing what's become our motto: document everything, follow the money, and never underestimate what neighbors can do together. Today, we help other towns fight corruption. Roberto's retirement is more fulfilling than his career. And I'll leave you with this. What's your worst HOA horror story? Drop it in the comments. We want to hear it. And if you enjoyed watching Karma catch up with power abusers, hit that subscribe button. We've got more unbelievable HOA drama coming your way. From all of us at HOA Stories, thanks for watching today's episode of HOA Karen Meltdown. If seeing justice served made your day, hit like, leave a comment, and subscribe so you never miss the next showdown.